And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. Today I want to deal with this simple concept that, believe it or not, I heard the first time when I was about 16 years of age. I heard this statement that said, your attitude equals success. Or, to shorten it, attitude equals success. I want to talk about the attitude of a seasoned business owner, you and me. We're not novice. We've been in business for a while. We've seen about everything that we could see. I have the honor and privilege to speak with business owners all over the country on a regular basis. When I'm speaking at events, business owners will line up and they'll tell me their story. And one thing that I often see with business owners is this word tenacity. Tenacity. No matter how many times we've been knocked down or how many times we've been kicked in the teeth, we're willing to get up, dust ourselves off, wipe away the blood, wipe away the tears, and go after the vision. We do so with this huge, big, defiant smile on our face, almost like the day that my college professor told me I was dumb as a box of rocks and I would never be able to write anything. And I turned around and said, you watch, one time I'll have a New York Times bestseller. And I haven't reached that status yet, but having number one on the Wall Street Journal bestsellers list is pretty amazing. And that attitude of, let me show you. That attitude of, you're not going to hold me down. And that breeds us entrepreneurs, us business owners, and we truly are a special breed. We truly are. But if we're truthful, if we're honest, and if we're authentically transparent, each one of us at some point or multiple points along the journey are going to reach some very deep, dark points in our life. We're going to find ourselves in some deep, dark valleys. Despite everything that we can try, we still find ourselves in the midst of turmoil. Perhaps it's a lawsuit. Perhaps it's the loss of a key contract or client. Perhaps an employee is killed on the job. I've seen it. Perhaps. The list could continue on all the things that could cause us to find ourselves into a deep chasm. But there's something about this mindset that we share, this attitude that equals success. So I want to deal with this simple concept that attitude equals success. I've heard before that your attitude determines your altitude. I've heard that. I've seen that on signs. If you have a positive attitude, you're going to go far in life. Ancient scripture often says is, as you think, so are you. If your mind can conceive it, your body or heart can achieve it. We've heard all these cliches. But if we break it down to your attitude equals success, we have to define what is success. What is success? I remember I was a guest on a popular nationally based podcast. I'm often on podcasts talking to business owners. I love talking with business owners. And the podcast host asked me a question. He said, Justin, how do you define success? Now, I knew the question was coming. And even with that simple question, I found myself, as I often don't, but I found myself stuttering and stammering and not being able to articulate what I felt or what I was trying to define. So before we go any further, I want to ask you that same very simple but profound question. How do you define success? Have you ever thought about it? Webster's dictionary defines success as the fact of getting or achieving wealth, respect, or fame, or the corrected or desired results of an attempt. So in this definition, we see there are two different attitudes. Chances are you began your business with the intention of creating enough income to make a living. More than likely, that's how we began. Hey, we're going to go out and start a business to produce income. However, business owners can often become so entangled in the purest of worldly success, the pursuit of worldly success, that we forget what is truly important. And no doubt you've been there. We are so focused on the next big sale or the next big mountain or the next big push in our business for this vapor, this stigma, this pursuit of success, that we often forget the things that truly matter. Truly matter. I've been a business owner for 30 years now, friends, a long time. I literally have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours, literally thousands of hours dealing with business. I know thousands because we have roughly about 250 hours of podcasts alone, just in recording, not including books and conferences and speaking and research and client events and just decades of me working with business owners. So I can safely say thousands of hours of my time has been spent with business and business owners or related around business. And oftentimes I hear the stories to where our desire to pursue success realigns our focus from what really, really matters in life. So what really matters? It candidly is your faith, whatever your faith is, your family, and your friends. You say, well, Justin, that seems awful short-sighted. Really? Let's think about this. There will come a point in your life when you leave this earth. It's going to happen. I've often said that the saddest place for me is a cemetery, not because somebody has died, but because so much wisdom has been buried for millennia before the state of the internet that could capture things. So much wisdom dies with people. And the ultimate selfish act is not imparting what we've learned on those behind us, whether it's our family, our friends, our children, whatever it may be. But we're going to all die at some point. We will find ourselves in this picture, maybe not exactly how I'm going to paint it, but it will happen. We will be surrounded, perhaps, in a hospital bed by somebody. We obviously will have our faith, whatever that may be, or the lack thereof. I don't care if you're an atheist, an agnostic, a believer, whatever it may be. You will have some sort of a faith there that you're clinging to in those final moments. Hopefully, you have family around you. I really do. I hope you have family around you. Somebody, maybe not by blood, but by relationship, that you consider these to be my family, that's there to love on you and encourage you. And then it's been said that we only have a handful of true friends. I find the older I get that I only have a handful of true friends, a lot of acquaintances, a lot of people that want to ride coattails or want to use me for some reason or want to be around me when the times are good, but not through the hard times. But we have those true friends. So the Webster Dictionary defines success as that of achieving wealth, respect, or fame, or the correct and desired results of an attempt is success. But in our journeys, we business owners often look at wealth, respect, and fame to the detriment of the things that truly matter: family, friends, and faith. So let me ask you, before we go any further, which side of success do you seek? Are you really, sincerely, and it's okay if you are, I'm not here to judge, I'm here to challenge and try to speak into your heart as a business owner. Do you really, really seek fame, wealth, respect to the detriment of perhaps some other more important variables for you in your life? See, fame, wealth, and respect aren't inherently bad things. I got to tell you, I had this aspiration in life to replace John Maxwell on the speaking tour at some point in my life. John Maxwell's career has spoken into my life in a powerful way. And I love his demeanor. I love his education. I love his wisdom. I love his person. And I have this aspiration to not necessarily replace him, because you can't replace a John Maxwell, a Zig Ziglar, a Les Brown, and many other public figures who have spoken to the lives of so many. You can't replace them, but I want to have that impact in people's lives. So some would argue that, man, Justin, you really are after fame. So in and of itself, fame, wealth, respect aren't inherently bad things. But oftentimes, we can use these as a litmus test to see, are we truly empty inside? Are we bitter? Are we unfulfilled? On the other hand, instead of focusing on fame, wealth, or success, you might want to focus on impact. How many lives do you have the possibility of impact? How have you loved on your team, your employees? Do they have the core values that you have? You'll be able to impact them, to leave them better or leave them alone, as my dad often said. Are you truly spending quality time with your family and friends, or do you neglect them, the people that really matter, for the secondary focus of perhaps fame, wealth, or respect? See, if you take some time to truly measure what you determine success to be, it's going to reveal your true values. Oftentimes, we get so tuned in with the toxicity of our business, or we get so tuned in with the addiction of success from our business that we forsake the true priorities. It's been said that money is success. In fact, Webster's themselves define the act of getting or achieving wealth. And so whenever I first start with people in the concept, I'll say, what are you really aiming for? And they'll say, I want to hit retirement. I want to sell my business. I want to have this much wealth, and then I'll be happy. In most cases, and friends, I've been doing this a long time. I've met people with 9-figure net worths, had sit down and have a great relationship, great dinner, and get very knowledgeable with them. All the way down to people who pretend they have 9-figure net worths and are broke. As we often would say, big hat, no cattle. An old statement I heard from a Texan friend of mine. They look good, they smell good, they're broke. But in many cases, money is no more than a magnifier of who we are. It can quickly shine a light into our heart. The old statement says, where your treasure is, there is your heart. And I've known people who've received incredible windfalls. I'm talking significant windfall, 8-figure windfalls. And they'll be broke within a year. In contrast, I've seen others take windfalls and turn them into impactful legacies that shape generations and thousands of people. So if money is success, then how do we explain what often transpires in the professional athlete arena, to where they have significant money we would deem success, but their lives are shambles? They found themselves without nothing, wanting so much more. So friends, I had to submit that money is not the measurement of success. Now, the world tries to get us to allure that, and the business world especially says, oh, he sold his business for 8 figures, he must be successful. Really? How is their family? Does their family want nothing to do with him? One of the most successful men I know, very, very wealthy. I could call this gentleman today on my cell phone. Family's in shambles. I've had multiple meetings with this individual. He said, man, if I had to do it over again, I would trade every dollar I have for United Family. I could name a dear friend of mine who is perceived to be successful that has very few friends. Very few friends. So I don't think money's success. But there's something interesting that happens for us in this attitude equals success is this. Allie Taylor wrote The Paradox of Success. In her book, The Paradox of Success, she stated, and I quote, research has demonstrated that as entrepreneurs, self-efficiency rises, their risk-taking propensity rises, and they increasingly rely on their own abilities to eschew the wisdom of external voices such as advisors or their own management team. In other words, as they become more successful, as they become more successful in their own mind, they take on more risk and they lean into their own abilities more, so much so to avoid or not listen to the wisdom of external voices who can see their blind sides. It's almost like professional athletes who have reached the pinnacle of their success and they ignore the coach who can see everything about them and is trying to tell them, hey, you're messing up. And then we watch their lives fall significantly. They have that one game or that one event, and the pinnacle is done. You see, the more success we as business owners experience, the more likely we are to become dependent on our own abilities. Ultimately, this can blind us from our weaknesses, which are so glaring to everybody around us, we can't see them, and then pride kicks in. We lose our humility, and it opens ourselves up for business vulnerability and perhaps even failure or atrophy. See, pride, the attitude of pride, will actually poison success. One of the things I remember candidly was a game that occurred November 14th, 1998. It was a football game. I love football. I love college football because I think the kids, well, up until recent moves, I think the kids were playing it for the love of the sport or trying to prove how good they were to move on to the pros. And there's still some purity in the sport of college football, I believe. But I remember this game, November 14, 1998. The Arkansas Razorbacks faced the number 1 ranked University of Tennessee Volunteers. Now, at the time, I was not living in Tennessee. I'm still not a Volunteers fan, and everybody around me goes, boo, but I'm a Bulldog. Go Dogs. But the Arkansas Razorbacks had totally outplayed the Vols. They had the lead and the ball in hand. Get this. With 1 minute and 47 seconds remaining. If they had just run the ball to kill the clock, they would have left this big Neyland Stadium here in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I live, with one of the biggest upsets in college football. All they had to do was run out the clock. All they had to do was take a conservative approach. Instead of running the ball, Arkansas opted for a play-action pass. And one of the players fumbled the ball. And it allowed University of Tennessee to recover and go on and win the game. Had they just run the ball, they might have still lost, but there would have been another Razorback player in the backfield to try to recover the fumble. In a play action, there was nobody to recover the fumble. And so business owners, we do the same thing. We go against our better judgment. We become our own audience. We become our best coach. We become our best cheerleader. We're in our own echo chamber. This attitude of success, we reach it and we begin speaking into our own lives in such a way that we lose the conservativeness that often led us to where we became successful in the first place. Just like the Arkansas Razorbacks against the Tennessee Volunteers in 1998, had they just taken a conservative posture, it would have been one of the greatest upsets in the history of college football. But we business owners, often because of our attitude, end up becoming our worst enemy. Our worst enemy. Friends, I'm going to continue this in our next podcast episode, but before I do, I want to leave you with a statement I've heard 1,001 times. My mom would say, son, do you know what the 11th commandment is? And now she's talking about the 10 Commandments. Many of you know the historical account where the 10 Commandments came from Moses, from God, and he wrote that was the law for the Israelites. That's recorded in the Bible. They were on there still are on many of our national monuments. You know, like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. You know, honor your mom and dad, keep God before you. All these various things, right? That we think are good moral laws. And candidly, most of our laws today are built upon that premise. My mom would say, son, do you know what the 11th commandment is? Now, you may know there's not 11 commandments, right? But she would say this, and she would say, the 11th commandment is simple. Fool, F-O-O-L, fool not thyself. Fool not thyself. She would also follow this up. You may lie to somebody else, but never lie to yourself. The day you forget where you came from, the day you forget that you are human, the day you forget that you put your pants on the same way other people put their pants on, the day you forget those is the day when our attitude of success becomes a detriment to our business. So let me challenge you at this moment. Before we conclude today's episode, how's your attitude? Let's do an attitude check here. Do you have somebody that's pushing back on you and your team? Are you listening to your coaches, your advisors? Are you approaching it to where you know everything and no one else can teach you? We actually fired a client recently because of that, because they know everything and we can't coach them. And now we can actually see the business going to atrophy. How's your attitude? Do you have an attitude that is leaning toward success? We're going to continue this in our next episode, friends. I realize life is hard. It is. Life is hard, but life is good. If you think about it, you're greatly blessed. We're blessed beyond measure. Life is good. And it can be frustrating, but it doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Hey, y'all go out and make it a great day.